Amara, after all I done for you, you decided to pay with evil. You are very wicked. After all I have done for you, gave you money, clothes, shoes, even got you a car, and still you pay me back with evil.
Daddy, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen.
You have no explanation to render.
The Okafor family was the kind of rich that made other rich people feel poor. Their mansion in Abuja sat on 3 acres of manicured lawn, guarded by iron gates that bore the family crest, a golden eagle clutching a diamond. Chief Emmanuel Okafor had built his fortune from nothing, starting as a young man with a borrowed briefcase and a head full of dreams, eventually growing his construction and oil empire into one of the most powerful conglomerates in West Africa. His wife, Patricia Okafor, matched him perfectly. Elegant, gracious, and deeply respected in every social circle she entered. They had 3 children, 2 sons who worked in the business and understood the value of sacrifice. And then there was Amara, the last born, the only daughter, the apple of her father's eye, the child who had been handed everything the world had to offer before she even knew how to ask. Amara had grown up in a cocoon of silk and gold, and nobody, not her parents, not her brothers, not a single servant in that grand house, had ever truly said no to her. That was the first mistake, and like all first mistakes made in love, it would cost them dearly. Amara Okafor was 23 years old and breathtaking. She had her mother's cheekbones and her father's stubborn jaw, and she wore both with the confidence of someone who had never once doubted her place in the world. Her wardrobe alone was worth more than most people's homes. She owned 47 pairs of designer shoes, each stored in a temperature-controlled closet her father had built for her on her 18th birthday. She drove a white Bentley convertible with a custom blush leather interior, and her social media following was in the hundreds of thousands. People called her the Princess of Abuja, and she loved every syllable of it. She wore that title like a crown, tilting her chin just slightly upward whenever she walked into a room, because she always knew that every eye followed her. She had never worked a single day in her life, never balanced a budget, never cooked a meal, never sat with discomfort long enough to learn something from it. Everything Amara had ever wanted had arrived before the want had even fully formed. Her parents watched her with love, and beneath the love, a quiet anxiety they shared only in whispered conversations late at night, wondering if they had given their daughter the world and forgotten to give her the tools to live in it. Chief Okafor was in Lagos. Patricia was in London. The villa was Amara's for the weekend, and she did what she always did when left unsupervised. She went too far. She posted a public invitation on social media without a guest list, without security arrangements, without a single responsible thought. By Friday night, over 400 strangers had poured through the iron gates of the Okafor lakeside property. There was alcohol everywhere, music shaking the walls, people swimming in the private pool, strangers wandering through rooms that held priceless art and family heirlooms. Amara danced at the center of it all, glittering and untouchable, convinced that this was simply what it meant to be young and alive and wealthy. She did not notice when a Yoruba bronze sculpture worth 3 million naira went missing from the sitting room. She did not notice when 2 men got into a fight that left a glass door shattered. She did not notice because she never noticed the consequences of anything. She was not built to notice consequences. That was the problem. By the time her brother Emeka drove 4 hours through the night after seeing the video circulating online, the damage was already done to the property, to the family name, and to something inside Chief Okafor that once broken would never fully heal. The morning came harsh and unforgiving, the way mornings after disasters always do. Amara woke at noon to find Emeka sitting at the foot of her bed, his face a mask of quiet fury that frightened her more than shouting ever could. Around them, the villa was wrecked. Empty bottles lined every surface. The garden was trampled. A painting their grandfather had commissioned in 1974 had been knocked from the wall and cracked down the middle. Emeka said nothing for a long time. He simply looked at his sister, and Amara, for the first time in recent memory, felt something unfamiliar move through her chest, something that might have been shame if she had been practiced enough in the feeling to recognize it. "Papa knows," Emeka said finally. 3 words. Amara's stomach dropped. She had seen her father angry before, but it had always been the performative anger of a man who loved too much to stay angry. A raised voice, a lecture, then forgiveness and a new gift within the week. Something in Emeka's eyes told her this time was different. This time, Chief Emmanuel Okafor, a man who had spent 30 years building a name that meant integrity and excellence, had watched videos of his home being ransacked by strangers on the internet. This time, the damage had gone public, and in their world, public damage was the only kind that truly counted. Chief Okafor returned from Lagos 2 days early, and the house became a different place the moment his car entered the gate. He did not shout, he did not cry. He sat in his study, called Amara in, and looked at her across his mahogany desk the way a judge looks at a defendant, with exhausted, sorrowful certainty. He told her calmly that the family had received calls from 3 business partners who had seen the videos, that the story had been picked up by 2 gossip blogs, and 1 mainstream newspaper had run a small piece under the headline, "Oil Tycoon's Daughter Turns Family Villa into Public Nightclub." He told her that her mother had wept on the phone from London, which was something Patricia Okafor had not done in 20 years. Then, he told Amara that he was cutting her allowance, effective immediately, and that she would no longer have access to the villa, the family credit cards, or the Bentley until further notice. Amara, stunned, had made the worst possible choice in that moment. She had argued back. She had said it was her life, that she was an adult, that he was overreacting. And Chief Okafor, who had built an empire on knowing when a foundation was too rotten to save, had looked at his daughter and made a decision that changed both their lives. "You will leave this house," he said quietly, "and you will not return until you have learned what it means to earn something." Nobody had prepared Amara for the real world, because nobody had thought she would ever need to enter it. She moved into a modest apartment in a middle-class neighborhood on the other side of the city, arranged and paid for by Emeka, who did it quietly so she would at least have a safe place to land. The apartment had 2 small rooms, a kitchen with a leaking faucet, and a window that looked out onto a dusty street. Amara stood in the middle of it on the first evening and cried for 2 hours straight. Then she called Temi. Temi did not pick up. She called Chloe. Chloe texted back, "OMG, that's so crazy, babe. I'm actually super busy, Aaron." She called Dio, the young man with the pretty face whose lifestyle she had quietly funded for 2 years. His number had been changed. Amara sat on the floor of her bare apartment, no furniture yet, no food in the kitchen, her designer luggage stacked against the wall like monuments to a life already over, and understood, in the cold, clarifying silence of that moment, exactly who her friends had been. Nobody. She had nobody. And the world, which had always arranged itself lovingly around her, was not interested in arranging itself at all. Hunger is a remarkable teacher. Within 2 weeks, Amara had burned through the small emergency cash she had brought with her and was forced to do something she had never imagined. She applied for a job. It was a receptionist position at a small events company, and she got it not because of her skills, but because she was beautiful and well-spoken. And the owner, a brisk woman named Mrs. Adaize, needed a face for the front desk. The pay was a fraction of what Amara used to spend on a single dinner. The hours were long. The work was repetitive and unglamorous, and her colleagues, ordinary hard-working young people who took public buses and brought their own lunch in containers, looked at her expensive handbag with undisguised curiosity. Amara learned to make tea in the office kitchen. She learned to take a bus when she could not afford a cab. She learned that a leaking faucet could be temporarily fixed with a cloth tied tightly around the pipe. She learned that eggs and bread could be stretched across 3 meals if you were creative. Each new lesson arrived like a small stinging slap, not cruel, but corrective. And somewhere beneath the humiliation and the exhaustion and the desperate aching longing for her old life, something was quietly changing in Amara. A callus was forming where the softness had always been. Not hardness, something better than hardness, something that felt distantly like character. Just when Amara was beginning to find her footing, the second wave hit. One of the guests from the villa party, a blogger she had never even spoken to, published a long, detailed account of that night, complete with photos and videos that had not yet circulated. The story went viral. It reached international Nigerian diaspora communities. It was shared, mocked, and dissected. Comment sections filled with opinions about Amara, about the Okafor family, about wealth and irresponsibility, and the failures of the Nigerian elite. A journalist from a respected publication called the family home seeking comment. Business associates of Chief Okafor began distancing themselves quietly. One long-standing partner withdrew from a joint venture, citing vaguely a need to reassess alignment.